Everyone, it's Mrs. Slauson. So obviously I'm not here. Mr. Megal, I think is his name, is your substitute today. So let's all be very good for him. The couple things you should have picked up at the door is your warm-up, which we're going to do together in this video. You should have picked up a factoring page, and on this page are all the factors of 1 through 100. You'll need it in a later video, and it's 3-hole punched, so when you're done, just put it with your stuff. And then the other thing that you're going to need that I gave you last week is your note packet. And if you don't have that, ask the substitute for one, because I do have extras in case you have forgotten yours, okay? So instead of doing like one big long video, I'm just going to do a couple of short videos. I hope they're short. And the first video is going to be for the warm-up, okay? So one thing I wanted you to do in the remote learning this week was to do the graphing for your note packet. And if you haven't done it, I need for you to do it. But the graphing from this packet ties into the graphing from the stuff that we did in a prior chapter with absolute value. And I did show you a quick way to graph with absolute value, but in this video I'm going to remind you of the longer way to graph. So there's 2 warm-ups, put your name on it, and again you will be turning this in to Mr. Megal when this is all done. All right, so first of all, we want to start thinking about the shapes of our graphs before we even graph. And what I need for you to start to remember is that an absolute value graph, which these 2 will be, are going to be a V shape, okay? So just kind of the general shape is a V, our parent function. Doing this for both of them. And before we start graphing, let's remind ourselves of the points that we pick for X. Do the math to get our Y values. And again, we do this with the parent function, which is just the absolute value of X. And the values we pick are -5, -1, 0, 1, and 5. And when you take these numbers and you put those in the absolute value bars, they force your answers to become positive. So we'll have 5, 1, 0, 1, and 5. All right? So let's get to our graphing. Let's talk about the transformations that are going to happen. So just remember that this negative is going to flip, and I'm just going to write abbreviations. That A, which is a half, if it's bigger than 1, it stretches, so it actually looks a little skinnier. But if it's in between 0 and 1, which a half is, then it's going to compress. So it's actually going to look a little wider. And then 8 is not in the bars. If the number were in the bars, like it is down here, this would tell us to move our shape left or right. When the number is not in the bars, this is K, it's going to tell us to move it up or down. And since this is a positive 8, we're going to move it up 8. All right? So the first thing we do is we take any flip, stretch, or compress, and we apply it to these old Y values. So I'm going to take all of these Y values, and I'm just going to multiply them all by -1/2. And so when I do that, I get -2.5, -0.5, 0 is still 0, -0.5, and -2.5. So I don't need these old Y values. I always cross them off because I have a new set of Y values. And so what happens is this V shape, this parent shape, so -5, 5 was here, but now it's going to flip down to -5, -5, and then it's going to compress its way back to -2.5. So it ends right there. But it's not going to stay there. This point is now going to move up 8. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Instead of leaving it here, but it's in pen, I can't erase it, I'm now going to go up 8. 1, 2, 3. And my point is right there. Okay? And then, again, what happened with -1, 1 was that it flipped here, and then it compressed to this -0.5, and now it's going to go up 8. And then 0, 0, 0, 0 is the one that doesn't get affected by a flip or a stretch or compress. It's just going to go up 8. And if you want a faster way to graph, again, this shape and our quadratic shape in this chapter have a vertex. And so this vertex is right here, if you can see that. And basically it just cuts your shape in half so it's symmetrical. So this point will have a partner or a mirror point over here, and so will this one. Or you can just go through, graph these, and move them up 8. So when I'm done, this is my absolute value shape. So some of you might be tempted right now to just be using your calculator. And the calculator is a great tool to check your answer, but when we do this on the test, you need to start to understand that some of our tests will not have calculator access, so you have to be able to graph these without the calculator. The domain and the range, this is a question, the range question on our test that we took last week was probably the most missed of the multiple choice questions. So just marking those important points, it's negative infinity, whoops, you can't see that. This is 0, 8, and then this is infinity, negative infinity. So my domain, which are the x's, you know, smallest x to biggest x, is negative infinity to infinity. Or if you'd like, you can write the all real numbers. But my range is not that case. The range is my smallest y to my biggest y. So y is going up and down. If I start at the bottom of my graph, I'll see the smallest y, which is negative infinity. But then the biggest y is 8. So I want to go from negative infinity to 8. And remember, infinity always has parentheses. But if there's a number in our domain and range, we do use a bracket. All right? So that's the first one. Here goes the second one. So we already know it's a V shape. Anything in bars is a V shape. We're going to have a stretch. So again, this one's going to look skinnier. And when the number is in the bars, when this is H, and H is our house, and in our note packet, our house is now parentheses, you always take the opposite of H. So when I see -3, I want to think of 3, and that's going to tell me to go right 3. There's no number on the outside, so it's just going to stretch and go right 3. So this time we're going to make our own t-chart. So for the x's, the values we want to pick are -5, -1, 0, 1, and 5. And then our y values will just be the absolute value of those, forcing everything to become positive. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to take my stretch, the 2, and apply them to all the old y's. So 5 becomes 10, this becomes 2, 0 is still 0, and then you get the others. And again, I don't need those old y's because I have a new set of y's. So what I'm going to do is go to -5, 10, and then I'll move it right 3. So here's -5, 10, and I just go right 3. 1, 2, 3. And then -1, 1, just kind of visualizing it did stretch up to here, and now it goes right 3. 0, 0 is never affected by the stretch, compress, or flip. It just goes right 3. And again, if you want to speed this up, just that vertex is that I'll have a partner point here and a partner point here. And this one, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left, will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. All right, end behavior. So on the quiz, this was the test, it was a multiple choice, but we're going to write it out. So I have LIM, x is getting bigger. So what is my y? What is my f of x doing? And that's over here. As x is getting bigger, y is getting bigger. And then my LIM for x is going to negative infinity. Hey everyone, sorry I had to pause. Mrs. Swain was at the door and we had to talk. Anyway, I was doing the end behavior, so LIM as x is getting smaller, which is happening over here. And that means our y, our f of x, is getting bigger, so that's what I want to write. All right, this warm-up should be done. You need to make sure your name is on it, and please give it to the substitute. He's going to check that off as one of your tasks that you got completed. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be going into our notes packet, and that'll be in the next video. All right.